big story of the day. Over to you, Rahul, on India Upfront.
Thanks indeed, Padmaja. Yes, the basic question tonight, viewers, on India Upfront, is Shaheen Bagh becoming a republic unto itself? That's the fundamental question that we are posing. For over a year, the residents there illegally occupied the main public thoroughfare to protest the CAA law. When they were asked to vacate their illegal takeover of public land, they refused. And of course, they got huge backing, political backing, not just here in India, but internationally. Finally, it was COVID, the fear of the spread of COVID that led to that agitation against the CAA imploding. The dadis of Shaheen Bagh left in public interest, they said. Now, 2 years later, today, when the municipal corporation decided to conduct a demolition drive to clear encroachments, locals blocked the anti-encroachment drive. They blocked the bulldozers, saying that this encroachment was an attempt at targeting Muslims. Viewers, several others joined this protest to stall the bulldozers, even though the civic authorities had intimated the public, the locals, the local authorities, that they were going to be conducting the demolition drive today. And this intimation had been given weeks back. As the civic authorities rolled in bulldozers to raise illegal encroachments, their path was blocked by a sit-in dharna. And there you can see all those people stalling the advance of the bulldozers. Politicians swooped in to kick up more mud. AAP MLA stood as a shield against the JCBs. Congress and Oasis men joined the protest, while the left knocked on the apex court's door. They contend that BJP is furthering its communal agenda by openly targeting Muslims. But the apex court snubbed the petitioners and warned them against the politicization of a perfectly legal demolition drive. That's what the Supreme Court said. But that was much after the bulldozers were forced to withdraw, reducing the drive against encroachment to a purely symbolic act, a photo opportunity, so to speak. The AAP, the left and Congress sounded triumphant as they dangerously played with people's sentiments, inciting hate. Yes, viewers, that's what we were watching. Now, let's play out some of the sound bites.
अब कोई अगर इंक्रोचमेंट है, ये तो पेड़ी बंधी हुई है, एक आदमी सफेद ही कर रहा है, वो पेड़ी बंधी हुई है, ये अब एक दिन पहले बांधी है, अब इसे भी मैं खुद हटवा रहा हूँ, इसे भी खुद हटवा रहा हूँ। जब यहाँ इंक्रोचमेंट है ही नहीं, तो क्यों हिंदू मुसलमान करने आए यार, ये तो बताओ। ये रोड पीडब्ल्यूडी का है, अगर कहीं इंक्रोच है तो बताओ, मैं साफ करा दूंगा। ये खंबा लगा हुआ है, ये खंबा लगा हुआ है, यहाँ कौन सी सड़क चलती है, ये खुद मैंने हटवाया यहाँ से।
इस तरह से मीडिया हाइप क्रिएट करके जो नफरत, हेट्रेड फैलाई जा रही है बुलडोजर के नाम पे, वो शाहीन बाग नहीं होने देगी। सिर्फ ये लोगों के जहन में है कि शाहीन बाग में बुलडोजर चला दो ताकि भाजपा का अपना वोट इंटैक्ट हो जाए, क्योंकि भाजपा एमसीडी चुनाव हारती हुई देख रही है, कहीं ना कहीं उनकी साख खत्म हुई है।
ये जानबूझकर सांप्रदायिकता फैलाना चाहते हैं, मुसलमानों को टारगेट करना चाहते हैं, अपने जो बहुसंख्यक वोट है, इनका जो हिंदू वोटर है उसको खुश करना चाहते हैं, उनको दिखाना चाहते हैं कि देखिए हमने मुसलमानों को घर बर्बाद कर दिया, उनकी दुकानें बर्बाद कर दी, उनका रोजगार बर्बाद कर दिया, ताकि उनकी कमर टूटे और उनका बहुसंख्यक वोट खुश हो।
While the demolition drive was halted on the ground, it was challenged in the Supreme Court. Sample how the ecosystem faced the stinging criticism of the court, the top court, for politicizing the matter. This is what the Supreme Court said, viewers. These are hard facts quoted straight from the Supreme Court. The question was asked of the left. What right of CPIM violated in this case? Why is it that you, the CPIM, has moved the court? Don't use the Supreme Court platform to turn it political. Let the aggrieved move the appropriate forum. The Supreme Court can't interfere at the instance of political parties. Notice is not needed to raise encroachments. If hawkers are affected, then go to the High Court, not the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said that we want to protect the people, but not like this. Well, despite the court's observations, the left insists that the demolition drive reeks of revenge, while the BJP accuses the opposition of trying to carve out mini Pakistans above the laws of India. Now, viewers, that to and fro has been going on. But let me take you a little closer to the truth through some hard facts. Is Shaheen Bagh above question? Is it above the laws of India? There are specific, unambiguous laws against illegal encroachments, and routine drives are carried out against encroachers in different parts of the country, and they are done as a matter of course. But the opposition only swoops down to shield Shaheen Bagh and not the others. Why, viewers? That's the question. Let's remind you of their duplicity. Here are some hard facts, incontestable hard facts, viewers. A 60-year-old man has immolated himself and is dead. This happened May 2022, today in Chennai. The reason? Because there was an eviction by the Water Resources Department. Now, all of this is happening under the Congress DMK regime. No one here is talking about moving the court in public interest, in saving people's livelihoods. So why, in the case of Shaheen Bagh, why are all political parties not concerned? And we're talking about the left here. The left supports the DMK government. We're talking about the Congress, which is part of the DMK government in Tamil Nadu. Let's look at Alwar, Rajasthan. Again, in April, 85 houses and shops were razed. It was an anti-encroachment drive by the authorities. This was under a Congress regime. Now, viewers, many can turn around and say that this was again an act of some sort of retribution, vendetta, revenge, etc. In July 2021, Muthanakulam, Tamil Nadu, a 125-year-old illegal temple is demolished for the Smart City project, again under the Congress DMK regime. No one said that this was an act against the Hindu community or its faith. In January 2021, Delhi, Chandni Chowk's Hanuman temple is razed. Why? Because the Aam Aadmi Party had floated a Chandni Chowk redevelopment plan. This happened under the Kejriwal government here in Delhi. Again, no one seemed to suggest, viewers, that one particular faith had been targeted or a community had been targeted. March 2019, Indore, Madhya Pradesh, 50 temples, houses and shops razed for the beautification of the Bijasan Mata Mandir. This happened under the BJP regime. Again, no one showed up to protest against what many people could have easily said was an act against the Hindu faith. So here you have very clear examples of demolition being done, especially in Congress-ruled states, because encroachments need to be removed. So why in the case of Shaheen Bagh are these political parties approaching the courts to try and give cover? These are some fundamental questions. Viewers, it is also said that the MCD has undertaken a communal exercise. Now, let me give you more hard facts, which also demolishes this. The MCD has been actually undertaking a large number of demolition drives in many localities, not just Shaheen Bagh, because there have been encroachments. And let me put that out for you. Here, of course, you're seeing one of the protesters atop a JCB. But let me tell you, Jahangirpuri demolition drive, 1,870 square meters of encroachments were removed. We're talking about 2nd of February 2022. 17th of February, again in Jahangirpuri, demolition drive, 1,500 square kilometers of encroachments were removed. In 11th April 2022, Jahangirpuri again saw demolitions. 20th April 2022, 2-kilometer road cleared. Across Delhi this year, there have been several anti-encroachment drives. In January 2022, there were 55 anti-encroachment drives. In February, 62. In March, 52. In April, 40. All these localities, in total, viewers, more than 200 encroachment drives undertaken. However, it is only here at Shaheen Bagh that people have a problem. Let's open this up. Let's open this up. Let's ask some direct questions. Let me begin first with Sanjay Jha, who's associated with the Congress party, Tehseen Poolawala, political analyst. Let me ask you first, Sanjay Jha, why should Shaheen Bagh think that it is above question It is above India's laws. And why should political parties communalize what was a very well advertised demolition drive, even when the structures were identified for demolition well in advance? I'm talking about almost 2 weeks in advance. And if there were problems, enough notice was given, these individuals, the locals, could have moved court and obtained a stay, as it has been done in other cases.
Well, Rahul, in my opinion, any illegal encroachment is subject to the legal process of the state or the municipal corporation, who are then in their legitimate rights to carry on with, whatever process for evacuation or, kind of relocation of that entire property or the people involved. Now, I think the reason why I think this has become a combustible, issue that raises the communal temperature is largely because of the fact that the perception is, and I think Jahangir Puri was a manifestation of a prejudiced system that seemed to target the minorities where a communal, violence had occurred. And I do agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you because I'm a law-abiding citizen. And although I may have a political affiliation, I cannot endorse any illegal encroachment. The only fundamental issue, Rahul, is this. Have people been given notices? If that is happening, then I think it is absolutely logical to carry on with whatever process a particular municipal corporation does. But I think it needs to be done in a dispassionate way. And I think even the BJP-led corporations have to be recognized this reality. Just like you're discussing it, I'm sure everybody in the media will, that this should not appear. And it's not just whether it is being done, it should not even appear to be targeting minorities, because minorities are vulnerable all over the country in India and in different parts of the world. And I think the institutionalized prejudice that is prevalent in India is something that worries me. Otherwise, you have the court. So I agree with you that there is a high court, there is a Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has told the CPM, go to the high court. I also agree there should be no politicization. Absolutely.
Can you give
These
an
are not
example
issues of debate.
Institutionalized
My only fundamental
prejudice?
problem
Mr.
is
Jha?
institutional bias. That's all.
Okay. So where is this institutional bias? Can you elaborate on this? Give me 3 examples.
Well, I'll give you one.
Just give me 3.
In the case of Jahangir, no, I'll give you one, and that is perhaps an exhibition. It epitomizes the kind of brutality that has really come into India's governance structure. Let's look at the fact that the Supreme Court issues an order saying there has to be a stay in the Jahangir Puri locality. What happens? They continue with the demolition until you have a leader from the CPM, I think it was Brinda Karat,
I asked you about institutionalized
prejudice.
prejudice. You need to explain. Jahangir Puri might have been overreach. It might have been arbitrary action. But you've said institutionalized prejudice against minorities. Can you explain how in Jahangir Puri was one community targeted? I can tell you that Hindus also lost their establishment.
Sure.
If you say that the Northeast Municipal Corporation is run by the BJP, which has a problem with minorities, then why were Hindu establishments also knocked down? Can you explain what is this institutionalized prejudice? Unless, of course, you want to spread fake news and get away with it. But I want to ask you, what is this institutionalized prejudice? Where does this come from in Jahangir Puri? Since you took the example of Jahangir Puri. Explain.
Okay, let me explain this to you. Yes, it's true that, for example, there would be some belonging to the majority community where also some illegal structures may have come down. But you also know this, Rahul, that these are predominantly Muslim neighborhoods. And therefore, I mean, end of day, they become victims of a system where you have a Supreme Court issuing a stay order. Are you ghettoizing
society? So are you saying that no illegalities, even in a place where there are a large number of Muslims? You see, there is in India, till I last checked, there is no Muslim area and Hindu area. Is there, Sanjay Jha?
I'm not saying that. I've said dominated by a certain community. You and I both know it.
Are you saying that those communities should be no-go areas? The state must erect some sort of a touch-me-not kind of fence and allow for any... I mean, there are areas where Dawood Ibrahim has great sway. In Mumbai, should there be no raids there just because we have to be sensitive to a community's point of view? If there are illegalities, I suppose anyone can go in anywhere. That way, you would then suggest that there should be no action in areas where, in fact, most areas have Hindus living in abundant numbers. So let's not go in there either.
Well, Rahul, this is a question that you must ask Amit. Amit is on the show.
No, I'm going to ask you because you made
the whole
point,
issue is about
institutionalized prejudice. You haven't still explained to me where this word is coming from, because as I'm saying, this sounds like fake news.
No,
where is
not.
institutionalized prejudice?
Well, let me give you the classic example of this is look at the number of under trial prisoners in India, you'll get the answer. But as far as Jahangir Puri is concerned, let Amit answer this question.
No, hang on, just rewind. You said a number of under trials in India, so are you now communalizing the judicial process? Are you suggesting that, what are you saying?
I'm saying that the prosecuting process, the police, the investigation, that is where the flaw lies.
Okay.
I mean, in the end of the day, why was the BJP conflating stone pelters with illegal encroachments? Why children and women had to be overnight
but in this case,
living
no,
under the
hang
sky
on. In this case,
with their homes raised down?
Sanjay Jha, you have to be
Just because maybe
you have to be extremely,
threw a stone.
You have to be extremely careful here. You have to be extremely careful here because we're treading on very slippery slopes. I'll tell you, when you generalize the way you are generalizing, you are creating wild resentment in the Muslim community. The statement that you just made is an example of that, fear-mongering. Why fear-monger over a demolition drive which was well announced?
You want me to give you data?
No, so tell me something. No, I'm talking about this.
Okay, I'll give you one.
One second. I'm talking about this issue.
Now, this one
Sanjay,
data.
no, one second. Let me come back to this issue. Please, this is an important issue. Please understand, you're a very sensible and responsible person usually. So I want to understand. This. Today, the Supreme Court is moved, not by any locals. Nobody from the community that you sort of ascribe a feeling of great resentment or siege to, move the Supreme Court. It was some abstract political party that today holds a few MPs here and there. I don't even know where. Some fringe political organization went there and moved the court. And they were told by the court where to get off. It's very simple. Sanjay Jha, it was irresponsible. Are you becoming part of that apologist group? That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm not, a spokesperson for the CPM. Let them answer it. And the Supreme Court's final call on that has to be upheld. Nobody's even criticizing that.
Okay.
I just want to give you one data that will tell you what the point that I have been wanting to establish from the beginning. The number of custodial deaths in our country in 1 year, I'm going by MHA data, is 1,647 between 2019 to 20. Investigate and find out how many of them, majority, are actually the members of the minority community. That is the institutional bias that we should worry about.
Okay. Let me bring in the BJP spokesperson, the national spokesperson, Amit Malviya. How would you like to respond to Sanjay Jha, who's talking about institutionalized prejudice?
Sanjay Jha, former Congress leader, used this very apt phrase called institutionalized prejudice. The only time institutionalized prejudice existed in the political firmament of India was in 1976, when Indira Gandhi ordered bulldozers to be run over Turkman Gate. Turkman Gate, at that point in time, even today, continues to be inhabited by the Muslim community. The reason why she ordered bulldozers over Muslims of India is because her son Sanjay Gandhi was forcing sterilization on young Muslim men and women, and when they protested, the Congress party thought it apt to run bulldozer over Turkman Gate. That is the only instance of institutionalized prejudice or use of bulldozers in this country against the minorities that I can think of. Everything else is conjecture. From whatever happened in Gujarat, in Madhya Pradesh, in Jahangir Puri, are all conjectures the so-called apologists, the Lutyens gang has made, saying you are targeting minorities because they have been involved in stone pelting. So by admission, they have have acknowledged that it's the minorities that have indulged in stone peltings, and most of them happen to have criminal antecedents, and therefore they were acted against. Now, for the likes of Sanjay Jha and the secular commentators of this country to publicly acknowledge that it is the Muslims who have been pelting stones on Hindu processions and they are the ones with criminal antecedents, I don't know how fair it is to the Muslim community. The second and very important point, Rahul, that you also alluded to in your comment, is that there is a demolition drive going on in every part of Delhi at the moment as we speak. There are notices that have been served and enough time has been given. And bulldozers are going to those areas as per a schedule. They were there in Shaheen Bagh also today. As it appears, those who were given notices had taken down their encroachments. And therefore, when the bulldozer reached there, there was no requirement of undertaking a demolition drive. However, what did we see? We saw leaders of the Aam Aadmi Party, the Congress, the AIMIM come out and hold the process of law to ransom. They get out the bulldozer and the seculars cheered it by saying, oh, look, they are rising up against the state's assertion. Now my question is that A, why should they have gone only to Shaheen Bagh and not to Vikaspuri and to other areas where similar drives are being carried out? Secondly, why only Shaheen Bagh is in question for all the wrong reasons? We had a big haul of contraband drugs recently in Shaheen Bagh. There are umpteen examples of notorious criminals with links to terror groups being spotted in Shaheen Bagh. You also had the now infamous sit-in dharna against the CAA legislation, which incidentally still continues because it has been passed by the parliament. But why Shaheen Bagh? Is it a ghetto that the communists and the Congress and now the Aam Aadmi Party are patronizing because that is where all the criminals for their nefarious activities come from? Is it because that is the area where they have housed all illegal migrants from countries like Bangladesh and Myanmar? Is it a safe house for terrorists and underground operators of these political parties who claim to be secular and liberal? Well, in fact, they are anything but that. Therefore, the question that we all must ask, that a country that was divided on religious lines in 1947, why does it still continue to have such ghettos? And why do communists in particular, who were behind the partition, also use the Muslims as cannon fodder for their politics? Is it a captive audience for their politics in JNU and Jamia Islamia? That is the question to be asked.
210 demolitions have been carried out across Delhi over the last few years and months. However, public interest is invoked only in the case of Shaheen Bagh. Why, sir? Why only the public interest of people living in Shaheen Bagh? Is this appeasement politics? What kind of fear-mongering is this? Can you explain? Other people's homes don't matter. You are a supporter of the DMK government in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai. In Chennai, a demolition drive is undertaken. And a person commits suicide. He immolates himself. There are 300 other homes that are razed. There are many people there who are saying that no due process was followed. But public interest is not evoked. In Chennai, where you are in an alliance, in a sort of a coalition with the DMK, but it is only invoked in Shaheen Bagh. Why, sir? Why Vivek Srivastava?
Okay, see. I was listening to Sanjay Bhai and he used the word institutionalized prejudice. I'm not a very diplomatic man. It is not institutionalized prejudice. The right word is state-sponsored violence and discrimination against the minorities, which this government is following. In an uncivilized democracy like Pakistan, the majority competes with the minority, discriminates against it, and the present government in India is on the same lines. You are trying to create a scare factor for the Hindus that look what the Muslims are going to do if they grow up. We were in touch with the people in Shaheen Bagh. We requested them to maintain the law and order.
Mr.
We have our
Vivek
branches
Srivastava,
over there.
You might have your
and we
grievance
assured
that
them
I'm asking you
that
very
this
specifically,
country,
and please answer my question specifically. I have not asked you a loose, whataboutery type of question. I'm asking you, how is it that the public interest of only those living in Shaheen Bagh is important enough for you to defend, and not the 200 other demolitions that took place and the so-called victims of those demolitions?
Now I'll tell you.
Their tears don't matter to the CPIM.
I'll come to the point.
Come to the point.
No. The fact that the bulldozers returned today is because on a voluntary way, the citizens, whoever had small encroachments, not very big ones, kabadi wala, puncher wala, juice wala, these are the kind
Muslim
of people.
One second. Are Muslim livelihoods important only to the CPIM or no other?
आप बोलने नहीं दे रहे मुझे सर.
I'm asking you a specific question.
मुझे बोलने दीजिए ना सर. राहुल जी कब चलेंगे? Okay, fine. I am willing to come to a demolition drive with Amit Malviya. Let us go to Sainik Farms. When is he coming with me? Vasant Vihar. When is he coming with me? Greater Kailash, east of Kailash, Saket. आप कहाँ हैं सर? 2-2 एकड़ 3-3 एकड़ के illegal farm house शहर में,
demolitions have taken place across the union capital. Demolitions have happened. No, 1 second. Vivek Srivastava, I don't think you know. Demolitions have happened in Sainik Farms. No, 1 second. I'm asking you. Fair enough. No, Vivek Srivastava, fine. No demolitions are taking place in these rich areas. Fair enough, even though you're wrong on facts. But nonetheless, let me come to the question that I'm asking you. Again, it's a very fundamentally... It's a fundamentally... It's a fundamentally pointed question. Very fundamentally. There are other localities in Delhi where there are poor people living. They are also living on the margins, right? They also have livelihoods that are being bulldozed, if I were to go by you. But the left only goes to Shaheen Bagh. I'm asking you, what is the particular connection here? The BJP says it's because you want to nurse a large number of illegals who you use and unleash in your politics.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. It is the wrong thing to say. We were the ones who stood with the farmers when the protest took place. We are the ones who are launching a labor agitation right now because of non-implementation of the labor laws which have been formed. And certain laws are very wrong and we want the Modi government to take it back. So it is not that. We work in the industrial areas, we work in the bastis, we work in the labor colonies.
They also work with the ISF. They also work with the ISF in Bengal. Viewers, the ISF, which is a known radical organization with a hate monger as a cleric, they had a tie-up. And the Congress party, their own partner in Bengal, had a fit when they realized that the left had tied up with the ISF. In fact, a large number of Congress leaders, including Sanjay Jha, if I remember very clearly, the G23, said that this was very wrong. You were promoting hate. This is the left for you, viewers. And the same left also goes out to our areas in the Maoist controlled regions and says that these Gandhis must be given a gun to fight against the state. There is a man called Yusuf Tarigami off the left.
Don't say that.
Off the left. 1 minute. Off the left in the Kashmir Valley, viewers, who stands with separatists and defends their interests. This is the left for you. Anyhow, let me bring in the advocate of the Supreme Court, Ishkaran Bhandari, because Vivek Srivastava is not being absolutely honest with the facts. Ishkaran Bhandari, how do you react to Vivek Srivastava this evening?
Rahul, very dangerous terms are being used very casually. Institutionalized prejudice, Muslim areas, and state-sponsored violence. So this thing has to be seen at 3 levels: ideological, legal, and political. At an ideological level, every part of Bharat is a part of Bharat where the law of Bharat will apply. This language of Muslim areas and separate laws is the language of Jinnah. is the language of partition and was the language used to justify Article 370. Thankfully, this government has done away with it. So with all the laws that have come to Jammu Kashmir, also this ideological thing that a separate landmass, because it's inhabited by a majority Muslim population in a valley, would have a separate law, that lies demolished. And that same logic has been trying to be brought here, so that every time a demolition drive or every time an enforcement of law occurs, people will start calling it a drive in Muslim areas, and we are very casually using that language, which is a language of partition, if I may say so. Second part is the politics of it. If an order has been passed,
not the language of partition.
Affected, let me please,
don't interrupt me.
Please don't interrupt me.
There are Muslim ghettos.
The very aspect, Rahul, if you won't interrupt me, the very aspect that you say Muslim areas are being targeted by a lawful, legal demolition drive, that rhetoric is a rhetoric that because these are special areas or these are Muslim areas, law of the land will not apply. But anyways, coming to the second point of it, the point of Rahul, law. Very simply, any affected party can go to the court, and that's what the Supreme Court held today. But if you go to the court as an affected party, you will have to show that you are not occupying public land. You, your father, your grandfather, chacha, taya, somebody must have bought a piece of land. Nobody can own the road. Nobody can own the public pond. Nobody can construct on these areas. These are public areas. But if kagaz na dikhayenge is the logic, that is why an individual does not go to court. And don't interrupt. Don't, Rahul, he can't keep interrupting and heckling me. How do I make a point like this? How do we make a point like this?
Please, Vivek Srivastava, no one interrupted you.
It is not a question
no
of
one
Shaheen
interrupted you. I'm counting till 3. 1, 2, 3. Please keep quiet. Don't force me to become a class 1 teacher, disciplining people. Don't make me behave like a principal, please. So 1, 2, 3, silence. Let Ishkaran Bhandari finish. Yes.
Thank you, Rahul. Rahul, the simple point is any affected party, if he got a notice of demolition, has the right to go to court, but he will have to prove it's a lawful land and lawful construction. That is why we have omnibus litigations, we have political parties approaching the court, and that is why Supreme Court did not entertain the petition today. And thirdly, the politics. We are living in a democracy. If a statutory authority, municipal corporation has passed a law and you are dissatisfied or has passed an order, the remedy is going to court. The remedy is not doing a political dharna, which started by Shaheen Bagh in 2019-20 December and is still continuing. That is extra constitutional means, that is violence, and that is anarchy.
Okay, now let me point out for Sanjay Jha's benefit certain statistics. He talked about incarcerations of Muslims. Now, the population of Muslims in this country, viewers, hovers around the 14% mark. In Gujarat, which has been ruled by the BJP for now almost 20 years, the population of Muslims in jail is 10%, well below the national share of the population of Muslims. Let me tell you, viewers, that Congress-ruled Maharashtra and West Bengal, which has been ruled by the TMC, have a higher proportion of Muslims behind bars as under trials than any other state in the country. In Maharashtra, though Muslims make up only 10% of the population, every third person in jail is facing a trial is a Muslim. Every second such under trial is West Bengal jail is a Muslim. The NCRB report shows Muslim population is only 25%. So viewers, here you have two cold statistics. No, I'm just, look, I don't want to go back into, I don't want to go back into dilatory arguments.
I just give you the example.
I only asked you a simple question and I want to get back to Tehseen on this. He hasn't spoken. Now, Mr. Poonawala, you want to talk about institutionalized prejudice. Let's talk a little bit about institutionalized prejudice. Institutionalized prejudice is when a prime minister suspends democracy and without fail locks up pretty much the entire brass of the opposition in jail. Institutionalized prejudice is when the locks of the Babri Masjid gates are opened. Institutionalized prejudice is when Muslim women are discriminated against to privilege Muslim men. Shah Bano case, Congress party, both instances, Babri Masjid locks thrown open, Congress party. Shah Bano, judgment of the Supreme Court overturned, To benefit whom? Muslim men and the hardliners over the interests of Muslim women. 1984 anti-Sikh riots. Again, institutionalized prejudice. When Sikhs did not get justice and their perpetrators of that violence were shielded by the Congress, promoted under the Congress. Institutionalized prejudice is when Article 370 is perpetuated, 35A is kept on the books. Institutionalized prejudice is when Hindu Kashmiris are denied justice even though their murderer sits on national TV and goes out and confesses his crimes against humanity. He said it was a genocide, well planned. These are instances of institutionalized prejudice, but I'm not going to go in there with you. Tehseen Poonawala, I'm only going to ask. It's about public interest, right? We must follow public interest, serve the public interest. In Tamil Nadu, Chennai, where the Congress and the left both support the DMK government, there a demolition drive is going on. Let's show those pictures of the demolition drive, Nizam Bhai, to Tehseen Poonawala, who might need actually to see these because he won't believe it otherwise. So let me just pull out those pictures and let's put them out there. Now, what do we see here, viewers? Homes being flattened, people crying, one person, and we haven't taken those visuals, immolates himself. Those are the pictures. We're going to come to those pictures in just a few moments, right? There, the state government, supported by the Congress, supports the Supreme Court order. They say it's the best thing. That's the example. Demolition drive. There it is. Protests, locals saying that you have completely flattened our livelihoods. There, demolition is upheld as a virtue. Here it isn't, viewers. Here it becomes state-sponsored prejudice. Why these silly double standards which are so easy to expose, Tehseen Poonawala? What special love does the Congress exude for one community? I want to understand this question.
The only love the opposition does have is for the constitution of this country, which under Narendra Modi is being destroyed. And I'll be very brief. Thank you for showing the visuals of Chennai. I'm grateful to you. But why did your media and your colleagues in the media not show for the entire morning or the entire afternoon demolition anywhere in India except what happened today in Shaheen Bagh? Because it was an agenda of the government to show some attempt of demolition in Shaheen Bagh. Because what happened today? What was the headlines this morning? India, like the Prime Minister's grace, Indian rupee, like the Prime Minister's grace, to quote Sushma Swaraj, fell to a new low. What else happened today? Economic Times, your sister newspaper, broke the story that the WHO report on the deaths of Indians in COVID was absolutely right. And therefore, to avoid it, the Prime Ministers and the BJP and the MCD carried out this so-called tamasha, where they went to Shaheen Bagh and broke nothing down because Amit Malviya on your show said, oh, everybody removed all the illegal demolition. Let your viewers know what was illegal. There were some shops out of which people had kept their baby chappals, toys.
Please answer the
allow
question.
your viewers to hear what it was. Allow your viewers to hear. Now, don't stop me. What was a Shaheen Bagh? Some shopkeepers had kept some chappals, toys, whatever that they sell outside the shop, buckets. They went with bulldozers, police, the shopkeepers moved it out. The whole day was spent in this tamasha, only so that viewers do not discuss the COVID report, the rupee falling, the inflation. That is what Sanjay Jha and Vivek Srivastava are talking about. That is the institutionalized bias that is happening, because you didn't show Chennai visuals the entire day, 24 hours. It was not trending all over. It was done because the government of India wants this to happen. One last thing and I'll end my point. The fact of the matter is simply this, Rahul. India is not stopped. India is going in reverse here. India is going backward. Day, night. All the BJP wants is Hindu-Muslims being discussed because they have nothing. India's bond status is going to come down to junk. It's at the lowest, India's sovereign bonds. And you know what's going to happen when that happens. They're going to be in a state like Venezuela. So let's wake up, smell the coffee. This Prime Minister understands nothing about macroeconomics. All he understands is hate and how to divert. And that's all he's doing.
Okay, look, Mr. Poonawala, you know, your very cultivated, good accent, etc., can't hide the facts. The DMK demolition was carried on Times Now since the morning. But you know, your favorite punching bag is always the TV channel or the media or the anchor, because you have nothing more substantive to say, which is quite sad. I'm not going to waste too much time defending our coverage. I'm only going to say, viewers, the following. There are two sets of visuals here on your screens. There's a Congress government, and let's not also forget Alwar, where the Congress government undertook, and it now turns out, a demolition where they themselves have suspended the people who undertook the demolition, because they themselves realized that it was obviously overreach, that there was a problem. So they suspend the people. So that was Alwar, but the Congress justified it. No problems, not a tear shed. Temples raised, etc. Not a tear shed. No particular community, their faith, their institutions didn't matter to them. In Gujarat, the Congress party supported the demolition of temples when they happened, when the roads were widened. Not a problem back then either. Here, viewers, you have a situation where in Chennai, they are saying, we are just enforcing the Supreme Court orders. How dare anyone say that illegal encroachment should stand? And here in Shaheen Bagh, viewers, you know that about a week back, Times Now did a story when the first inclination of an impending demolition was made public by the SDMC, the South Delhi Municipal Corporation. That very day, viewers, our reporter was there, and the shopkeepers themselves were removing the encroachments. They were self-regulating. Why? Because they realized that material would be seized or smashed. Therefore, when the bulldozers went today, first of all, they were blocked by the Congress, the AAP, and of course the left, which is a crime in itself, because you never obstruct civil servants when they're doing their job. And Amanatullah has been booked rightly for that. He's the Aam Aadmi Party legislator. And secondly, Amanatullah himself conceives that there were encroachments which he had removed. And now he says there are none. Who the hell is he? Who is he? Is he the state? Who is Amanatullah? The last we heard was him on camera inciting mobs during the CAA protest. That is Amanatullah. He's not some big Chaudhary.
He's a duly elected representative.
No, 1 second. He's not some Chaudhary standing there and standing in the way of illegalities.
MLA, sir.
And he says, "Hamare ilake mein maine karwa diya." It's not his job to arbiter illegalities. That's the court's job. And that is why, 1 second, Vivek Srivastava, I just want to go over what the Supreme Court told your party. Lower his fader, just irritating us. Vivek Srivastava must know what the Supreme Court told the CPIM today. It went out of its way to tell the CPIM that it had no locus standi. Don't use the Supreme Court platform to turn it political. Straight rebuke. It's not my words. Supreme Court. Let the aggrieved move the appropriate forum. If they are not in any way aggrieved, why are you jumping like cats on a hot tin roof? That's the fundamental question, viewers. And therefore I asked, are to some political parties Shaheen Bagh above India's laws? Is there a culture of discrimination, artful discrimination, to insulate one community totally, or fearmonger? Those are questions which, unfortunately, none of them, the Congress proxy, as well as Vivek Srivastava could address, doing a huge disservice to their own arguments. One person talked about incarcerations. The facts were completely on the opposite side, which I have narrated to you. Another, Tehseen Poonawalla, talks about what he believes is the media, which is selectively biased. Fair enough. Then you have Mr. Vivek Srivastava, who doesn't know where to hide because the Supreme Court itself has given a tongue lashing to his political party. Here are our public spokespeople. This is what it is, viewers. Think about it.